Councilmember Whitmer,
Yeah.
Councilmember Lewis.
Should leave early.
Should leave early, that's right, should leave early. Councilmember Lane,
Here.
Vice Mayor DeGolia.
Yes.
Mayor Holland.
Yep.
Committee member Robinson. Here. Committee member Roberts. Committee member Hunter. And Chair Kane. You have a forum of both groups.
Okay, great. Do we have any public comment for items that are on the agenda?
Where's Ken?
Ken is, Ken's hiding, he's getting warmed up,
He's deciding on the next
getting
role.
fueled. Okay, all right, so,
I see none online.
okay, great, so. We're going to take it off with one item on the agenda.
We have one item on the agenda. Thank you, Madam Mayor and committee members and council. This item consists of two parts. The first part is a review of the committee charter for the Park and Rec Committee. At the last council meeting, the city council directed that staff make a few changes to the charter. Those are articulated in the staff report. And those changes are, in general, removing from item A, which did say, upon request, make recommendations to the council on all matters pertaining to the town's active and passive park and public recreation services, removing the words upon request. On B, it said, work with staff as needed to assist other governmental agencies and public and private groups in the advancement of park and recreation planning and programming. The direction was to remove other governmental agencies. That was removed. The item C, which is an editorial removal, to remove in the month of April as the mandatory report from Park and Rec. It could be whenever it's available anyway. Item D was work with staff to review the annual budget for the town's Park and Recreation Community programs and services during the budget process and make recommendations with respect thereto to the city council. That part was removed. It was just to the city council. More of a grammar thing. Item E, assist staff with a review of fees and services within the park and make recommendations with respect thereto to the city council. With respect thereto was removed. And those were the extent of the changes to the charter. And so that was up for conversation today before the council sees that again for formal adoption. The second part of this staff report is an opportunity for the council and the committee to meet and really talk about the high level goals, objectives, and vision for the park. And an opportunity for the committee to hear from the council as to what their visions and goals are for the park in the long term, in terms of its operation, its development, things like that. And for the council to hear from the committee on the same. So that concludes the staff report. I'm gonna take the charter first. If there's any other changes to it?
Okay. Does anyone have any edits or changes to the charter? No? Okay, anyone want to talk about built shoes? Nope,
I'm sorry, the charter?
to the charter, the changes to the charter, and then we'll get into the.
I brought this up before. I know that maybe we can water down upon request, but I thought that the upon request was still pertinent. There are certain times that the council is responsible for certain things. Like we just went through with selection of the park manager, which also ended up becoming a ad hoc catering service. And there was some concern at one or two of the meetings that I attended, and then discussions with certain people from the Park and Rec Committee that they felt that like with the playground, the Park and Rec Committee should have been responsible for developing it, coming up with a solution, and then making a recommendation. And in that case, that wasn't what the facts were, and it just makes the things a little bit cleaner. The way it's written here, it says make recommendations to the city council on all matters. All matters is a very broad term, and I feel that we should have some sort of qualification in it. I brought it up before, and I thought that it was accepted. When I spoke to George, he said, "Oh no, there was nodding their heads the other way," but I didn't see anybody nodding their heads.
Would you like it better if we took out the word all?
You think so?
Well,
Yeah, I say appropriate.
Yeah, just matters relating instead of all matters.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Well, I think the real issue is the fact that it's broader than just park and rec, right? So matters pertaining to park and recreational services. So if it limits it to the role of the committee, doesn't that do it? So what other town's activity would they be making recommendations on? The
Like I
crossover.
just mentioned.
Okay, that, the crossover.
Well, no, it's not a crossover. We decided we were gonna move forward. Actually, staff came up and said, you know, let's go ahead and put an RFP out to see if we can have a park manager. And 2 people applied. The staff identified those and reviewed those and presented them to the council. The council, made, their discussions about that. There was then Elizabeth and I were asked to go meet with them with Anthony. And all along that period of time, there was some concern from Park and Rec that, hey, we should have been involved in that. We should be participating in that. And the discussion was, it was a council decision that the council is taking responsibility for. Okay, and so it just makes it cleaner, so no one gets their feelings hurt. Or feels that they got left out. And I just felt that a qualification, which I brought up when we looked at this, a qualification should be in there. If you want to take out all and put appropriate, that's okay. If you want to say upon request, okay, that's either way, but. And if you want to ignore my comments, then that's okay too.
You could also
do
just
that.
get rid of all and say, make recommendations to the city council on matters pertaining to the towns. And just not add more
Oh,
words
appropriate.
that are hard. I just feel like appropriate's hard to define because it's very subjective.
Where is judge?
So to me, it's just matters pertaining would make sense.
What's the difference between item A and F?
There's, I mean, what?
F, Foxglove.
Now you're distracting us into a
That's
whole new level.
fine, recreation areas.
Areas, activities, and facility.
Let me clarify for a second what Bill says. What happened was Park and Rec has for years dealt with the caterer. We reported from the caterer, we watched the caterer, we got reports from the caterer. So when this came up, it was not some people, it was Park and Rec unanimously voted that we would be happy to give our input. We knew it was a council decision, we knew how it came up, and so we said, wouldn't you like all their major decisions in this park? And this is a major decision because if you look at the revenue, for instance, this is a big deal. If you look at our reputation, it's a big deal. If you look at how we've raised money and scheduled activities, it's a big deal. All we did, we passed a resolution, said we'd be available to give input for this. And it was passed, as I say, it was passed on. Somehow it never got to the council, but it did get at least to one of our council members here who describes it as his dislike. But it was all meant in good faith. And frankly, my view is, as was explained at your last meeting on this, people are going to spend their time doing this. I've spent dozens and dozens of hours on everything from a toilet in the new park to going through 6 times pickleball in various aspects. And it's an affront, frankly, to say that something in the park is not within our jurisdiction. I think it is. It can be disregarded, never has to reach anything as far as the views of your council, but I think it's appropriate. So I just read the video, watched the video of your last session. Upon request is taken out, other committees too. So I agree with that. If you want to put appropriate in my view, everything is appropriate that has to do with the park. Again, just for recommendations.
Yeah.
So a couple things on that. think that the intent of this is to make sure that the clarification of the role is there. So for me, the idea that the committee would be involved in something like making a comment about the way they feel about something that happens in the park seems totally appropriate. And then whether I accept it, it's okay. So I don't think, the problem I had with the idea upon request is that no committee could do anything without a request. And so I was looking for them to just sort of do it, Walt said, which is just, you come up with an idea, say, hey, this is the idea, and if we don't do anything with it, then it's okay. And that's why I wanted community involvement in those groups anyway.
Because we can't direct staff to do anything.
Right,
Only
right,
the council.
Right, and so I think it's the difference between responsibility and the idea generation. That's the line I would say. The responsibility lies with the council. The generation of ideas and concepts and sort of oversight of what's going on, feedback of what's going on is the committee.
I can imagine, we could form a subcommittee if there's something of interest to the committee to study further, that the committee members themselves kind of do the research, do the work to bring it back to the full committee to say, this is what we found, and then we can ask staff, can you bring to the council or something that maybe the town should invest in or something like that.
Well, there's also a council liaison, which helps.
Yeah.
Do that too. I mean, so the council liaison, in my opinion, would, you guys are going off the rails, the council liaison say, hey, this is the rail.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for the short hop issue to be solved by the liaison, and then the idea generation by the committee. So I'm fine with out upon request, but I do agree that taking out the all word would be okay.
I have on the A bullet, I have a different question. I don't know what active and passive, what that means and if
I don't
that's
understand.
necessary.
I don't understand.
This is where words are very weird.
Yeah.
Pertaining to the town's active and passive parks and recreation services. Feel like, what isn't active or passive? Just take it out, so it's all of it is kind of my.
They are distinct with respect to the park. I mean, an active one might be the park courses or the ball field or the tennis facilities. Passive might be North Meta.
I more, is that redundant, because when you say both active and passive, what you're saying is all
Yes,
essentially, so you could just say the
Take them
town's.
out. Yeah.
Parks and Rec services, full
Right,
stop, instead of
right.
having the,
Right. Yeah, because I was confused by the words.
right,
That definition makes sense now, but without that definition, they were just like, yeah, I didn't understand what.
yes. I like less words, less confusion, less words.
And I like
removing the word all and removing active and passive.
And I like fewer prepositional phrases, and there are a lot of sense, but that's my whole thing.
Okay, does anyone else have
Not
any other changes to this? Okay, are we all good on the new charter? Is there any other things related to the? Okay, so now we switch to the part two of that.
Any public comment on this?
Oh, yeah, public comment? Ken, anyone on that? Okay, all right, so then now we're talking about brainstorming and.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
There's a reference in here in general as to the procedure when people appear before council. And statement is that people should not identify themselves as a member of Park and Rec. When appearing before council, it says when you appear outside, other entities and so on. I understand that. I don't understand why somebody can't say, I'm a member of Park and Rec and I have this personal comment to make, or I'm vice chairman of and I have this personal comment. To
So,
me, I just don't see why that's there.
and that's perhaps a legal question as well, we want to add on this if you need to, but in general, it is because if you're standing up and you mentioned, and there's other public in the room that don't know you, and you're saying, hey, I'm, Walter Robinson, and I'm the chair of the Park and Rec Committee, or a member of the Park and Rec Committee, they may feel that you are speaking on behalf of the committee. So the policy is written so that unless you do have the authority to speak on behalf of the committee, you're speaking as a resident.
That's why I say, my personal view is what I said.
But when you say,
So
I'm
that
also a
tells
member of Park and
people that I
Rec.
have some real information about that it's a topic that I may have really looked at carefully. For instance, spent dozens of hours on it, which I have on various subjects. I just don't see the confusion there if you say it's personal. I do see your part, George, exactly, because that is the issue. We do not appear on behalf of the council, of the committee itself, unless we're authorized to do so. And that would typically be Alex or me doing that. But I just don't see why council members, like, for instance, a new council member should know that I'm on that committee when I'm talking about something about the park.
Yeah, two things on that, as I understand that really well, being on the planning commission for 13.5 years. I was always aware of the fact that if I said, as a member of the planning commission, I'm thinking this, or as a longtime planning commissioner, I'm thinking this, I know it sort of gave me a stamp of approval for anybody who wasn't regularly part of the process. But when I came up and said, I've lived in Atherton for 25 years, and what I've seen in the 25 years, I see this, I get credibility for being in a neighborhood for a long time. It's the same type of reflective credibility that being a member of the committee would highlighting that. So if you want to play citizen, if you want to play committee person, to be authorized by the committee to speak. That's the line that we're talking about.
And you can't unring that bell.
Right,
mention it in
right.
public comment.
And if you double up on the authority, then it sounds like you're speaking on from too much of a position of knowledge. Right? Is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so now part two, how should we organize this long future looking conversation
Are we
about?
the first ones to go and look?
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be my preference. Let's go for it.
Well, you were asking the city manager.
Okay,
I don't know if
go.
he has an
Do
opinion.
you have a,
Well, I do know that the various members of the council have different perspectives with respect to basically the active and passive use of the park and what our vision is for it in terms of also renting the park, whether it's used for large corporate activities or more small scale weddings and things that are community based. We're not renting it to Facebook or Google and those sorts of things. There's been caps on our ability to rent it to large needs because of parking concerns. And so I'm limited if something comes in at 75 or more. Is it 200 people? 200 people or a certain number of cars. You know, it's got to go to another layer of approval before we can authorize that kind of an event. And so just getting that vision on the table for both groups would be important. How you do that?
Well, is there an easier one between active and passive to start with?
It's more just vision for the park versus.
Okay, so it's not one half of the other,
I
okay.
feel like Alex had a list at our last meeting.
I had a list, but there is the higher level question of, you know, every, maybe say fiscal year we begin, things like that. We don't have, I mean, we can kind of do whatever we want because we don't have kind of a vision from the council in terms of, these are the things we think the park and rec should look at for this coming calendar year or fiscal year, whatever it may be. Occasionally we get that, such as the playground. I think pickleball came through us up and then came back down, that we should look at it. But usually it's kind of those initiatives that we'll hear about because it passed a recent council meeting, some funding or some grant. But it would be nice to say like, okay, let's start the fiscal year. What are your guys' ideas for maybe some improvement in the park, and we can take a look at it. And then if you want our feedback in terms of some ideas, we can give you that so that you can be prepped and then tell us like, okay, these ideas sound good, let's take a look at it and take a look at that. Usually how I run it as chair is I'll start the fiscal year and say, what do you guys want to look at the top 3 initiatives, and let's keep it to up to 3, maybe we'll do 4, but we don't want to do more, otherwise we get so spread out, we kind of be like Palo Alto, which they have 10 and then they get nothing done. And then so we try to keep it focused and try to finish it by the end of that fiscal year.
Yeah, so as liaison, I think there's two separate issues. One is exactly what you just asked for, which is what ideas does the council or members of the council have for the park and rec committee to focus on in terms of improvements or adjustments in the park? And I think that's kind of an ongoing thing that in fact flows more from Park and Rec up to the council as advisory suggestions of things to do. But on occasion, there's an issue that flows from the council down to the Park and Rec. That's one area. The area that I see as liaison that comes up every year and is really a big issue for Park and Rec is what is the council's policy priority in terms of raising money and offsetting costs with park operations and rentals versus use and enjoyment without concern for rentals and offsetting costs. And I think that second issue is a real policy issue that the council needs to give some direction to Park and Rec on, so that Park and Rec feels comfortable in the focus, because there's two very different focuses there in terms of how much to prioritize raising money and offsetting costs versus enjoying the park.
Because at one point in the past, when Atherton was struggling to balance its budget, the park was very important to try to earn revenue. If that's changed, then yeah, it should be made clear to Park and Rec that enjoyment is more important than generating revenue, because it will dictate things like the caterer. How do we ask the caterer to perform, and what are we measuring?
And what are the priorities?
Yeah, what are the,
So, a number of years ago, there was a big push, as you pointed out, maybe even before you were involved. And the park got rented out to some very large internet-based companies where residents couldn't even get in the driveway. They had guards out there, things like that. And that was, it's the people's park. It's the only park we have, and it's the people's park. And so, I think that in my discussions with other members of the council, some who are not here now, this is our park, the same as you all brought forward when we were looking at the playground. We don't want the park to be a destination. That was right on. We don't want the park to be a destination. We want the park to be available to our people. And, there are some nice facilities there that we can rent out. And when they're sitting idle, we should rent them out, for sure. But not to the extent that the parking lot is full, not to the extent that we can't get our own people in there. We have to look at everything in relationship to what's going on too. So, when there's a baseball game during baseball season, which we're just about to start up again, on Saturdays and Fridays and Tuesdays, when they're having their games, the parking lots are full, especially all in the back, and it all flows through to the North Meadow area. And so we have a lot going on in the park already. I don't think that we need to actively do things, but we would, if there were more weddings there, without making too much noise for our neighbors and things like that, I think that that's a good way to make some money. We would like to see the revenue grow a little bit, but it's not make the park self-sufficient. It'll never be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
No park in a town has ever been self-sufficient. And so I don't see the Little Atherton should be the trendsetter there. But we have a lot of activities going on, some for just our, for our residents, but like our art program, they bring in lots of people from a lot of different, communities, and that's good. The bottom part of of the main houses being used and people are here, they get a chance to see the park and they may come back, you know, on Saturday or Sunday and have a picnic and things, so. But
Can you take care of the problem of too large an operation by having in the contract, having a way that George has to approve it?
So we have that
they can
already.
Get to the,
we have that already based on parking, 75 people. There's gonna be 75 people or more.
200 people or 75 cars.
Yeah,
that'll be in the contract?
It has been historically.
It's a threshold.
I know
of-
historically, but you got a
Yeah.
new part
No,
of
but
it.
that's,
they'll know what to do. They'll be told what the requirements are.
before.
There's a threshold before it's gotta come.
Oh, I But we don't, we wanna be everything in moderation, you know?
Yeah.
You don't know how many residents are gonna be coming tomorrow or this weekend, or how many residents are gonna wanna use the picnic tables so, you know, we don't wanna have the park totally taken up, you know?
Does it make sense to have a revenue goal that sort of addresses that, not too big, not too small, or is that getting too?
I can tell you.
Yeah, there isn't one?
Yeah, you know,
Well, Rick had his hand up, so.
So, my perspective on this has changed a little bit, with the post-COVID and the loss of our park manager. Because we previously were raising somewhere 60 to 70% of the cost of the park, with rentals. And we had, I don't know, almost 10 weddings a year. And we had lots of rentals, some to corporations for like the North Meadow and the pavilion. And once we lost the two managers catering to, and then the other one we and with the aftermath of COVID, we saw that dramatically change. And I think that it's not, in my opinion, it's not a priority to rent out the facilities in the park. I think it is a priority to make the park enjoyable for residents. I recognize that there's lots of people that come to the park that aren't residents, and that's fine. But I think the priority for me is to make the park enjoyable for residents. So I sort of look at how residents most use the park. And it seems to me that residents most use the park. There's sort of four areas that I see. Number one is walking the trail. Very popular walking the trail, and I think most of the people that walk the trail are residents. I don't have any factual backup for that opinion, but that's my opinion. I think secondly, there are a good number of Atherton kids that play in the Atherton Menlo Little League and use the field for playing, and the same is true with lacrosse and soccer in the big field. So I think those are priorities for us. And third is use of the tennis courts. I think that we have a significant number of Atherton, the vast majority of people that use the tennis courts are Atherton residents. And the pickleball courts, I'm sure, is true too. And we've heard that from lots of people in the course of assessing the whole pickleball trial and the need for the change. And Park and Rec was instrumental in making that happen. And the fourth is there are residents that rent the pavilion and have had weddings there, and they really honor the park when they do that. So I think maintaining the facilities to be available, particularly for resident rentals, but for rentals in general, is a good thing. To maximize the dollars from that is not the most important thing to me. I don't think that it's important to have, I mean, we're gonna raise more money if there's large corporate events, I recognize that, but for me, that's not the priority. For me, the priority is really to make the park available, kind of as I see it in those four areas, for residents. And to the extent that we can offset costs with different rentals or other activities that raise some money, it's good. But we've gotten kind of used to not raising as much money as we used to raise, and it seems to be working okay for now.
So there's a
Yeah,
couple
go
of
for
things.
it.
If we were going to look at how to use the facility for non-residents, there might be a way that we could consider types of groups that we might want to contact. For example, .orgs or government agencies or small, the corporate thing can get too big. But maybe there's ways we could look at smaller organizations that have regular meetings where the leadership meets, and that would be a way to show partnership with those agencies and use the facility and generate a moderate amount of income. They won't pay as much as corporations, but they're looking for places to meet.
Yeah,
And so then it comes down to what sort of attributes do we have, is it wired and all that. kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have that already.
Yeah,
There's
right.
square dancing in the carriage house.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, talking about,
The
we're talking
public
about,
school system comes over for picnics.
When the new caterer comes online, I think the committee will meet with them and then talk about what their marketing plan is.
yes,
So that we can emphasize, local groups, maybe like the schools, that are within Atherton, if they want to have
teacher
it.
offsite or
Yeah,
something,
if they want to have offsite. In fact, I think Encinal has had one,
Yes.
or NPCSD has had one at parks, so. And certainly Sacred Heart has a ton of things going on at the park all the time.
Right.
So I think we can do that. We'll meet with the caterer because they're gonna be the ones marketing, so we'll talk to them.
Yeah, so if we were just to say, no big corporate, that's fine, but what would be, and those are the kind of ideas I'd be looking for from the group. Yeah.
Okay,
The other thing too, if there's anything you do that's the speed that they drive me crazy, they're the worst speed bumps I've ever had. I've scraped the bottom of the cars and there would
But
be.
don't drive your fancy little stuff.
It was a Ferrari and it's got scrape marks on the bottom of it and I just used to have a Benz thing.
Suggestion as it relates to our rental policy. I think it might make sense to look at what we are allowing and not allowing compared to some of the other parks. Very specifically, I've had several people comment that they can't have birthday parties at our park because you can't have a bounce house is our policy. And I don't know why that is, but like, are there other things like that? Like,
You could bounce houses.
Yeah,
well, Atherton has bounce houses at Atherton events, but there's somewhere
There's
people are
always
not
one at
having birthday
National
parties.
I will
Yeah.
explain why.
Yeah,
We've had various issues where they would drive out onto the North Meadow and leave big divots with their trucks.
Over sprinkler heads.
Or run over sprinkler heads, or whatever, to haul those things out as opposed to just walking them out. But then we also have during the summertime, the heat generated from those things will burn the grass.
Oh, the motors.
Huh? No, the
plastic on the
Oh,
ground.
plastic, okay.
Yeah.
And so our concern is what happens to the grass and
Yeah.
that kind of
But
thing from a
can
maintenance
that get
perspective.
taken out of the deposit?
We can look at our deposit requirements for that.
Good Parks and Rec, get in the weeds on bounce house policy.
I'm gonna say that we can certainly have that conversation, reviewing what we do allow and don't allow, and they can make a recommendation. Our concern from staff's perspective is what damage is gonna be caused by whatever activity it
And we could do a separate damage deposit if you're going to have
A bounce house.
bounce out.
Or any other.
Well,
We
activity
can
that
put the
causes-
bounce houses over on where it's wood chips out there in between, where the parking lot ends going out towards the.
Where the compost is.
It's not
The
grass.
kids in the trash pile.
The configuration now actually is a bit different than it was before as well, with the improvements that we've recently made. And so we can certainly have conversations with Park and Rec and probably when we have the new vendor on contract, to see what recommendations they have in terms of how that can be better managed.
Yeah,
Because again, right now, we don't have any active management of rentals right now.
Yeah.
And so that is certainly something that we can look at, whether it's designating certain spaces, taking in an extra deposit, to mitigate those concerns.
I think some parks also say you have to use one of our approved bounce house vendors is to make sure that they're aware of the sprinkler heads, they're not, whatever. So you guys figure it out, I don't wanna be in the weeds on it, but I feel like there are,
You know more
There-
about bounce houses than I do.
I sure do. They gave me my own influencer code, cause I.
So we can also look at, like I said, because now we have the new expanded picnic area by the playground. There may be some space there that can be appropriately used, it's not on top of grass, that's gonna be less
Yeah.
damaging.
Yeah, there's other those like facing things that might be an opportunity for increased rentals, that's not like a large corporate event, like someone wanted to have a soccer class for kids under a certain age or
Right.
a little more,
They have those already.
right, but like not in Atherton, I've driven
Yeah,
to
they are.
Redwood
I've
City
seen
and
them all the time, and I see
so
volleyball tournaments and things like that. They're there.
I don't think they're supposed to be doing that. Or like
We do
fitness
rent the field.
classes, or, I'm just like, is there things beyond large scale events that could be
You're talking
encouraged?
about classes?
No,
If they're 13 or more, they have to get a day use permit.
I don't know,
Yeah, and we do allow vendors that come in and do
Yeah.
classes like
Okay,
dog classes.
There's
dance
Legends
classes.
that does their camps in the summertime.
But I don't think
The
we
lacrosse
openly
folks.
solicit
No.
those or advertise what we
Right.
charge.
those feel like they are within the spirit that that's a thing that an Atherton resident might enjoy, being able to walk to the park to go take pictures, whatever, I have no idea what this could be, but that's something I drive outside of Atherton to do. So,
Yoga classes.
yeah, like
Yeah, they have
things that
those,
aren't gonna overrun the
the
park, that
libraries
maybe are
and all those-
opportunities.
Okay.
Tai
That's
Chi
my-
and yoga.
Well, in many communities that have multiple parks, larger cities, they actually have recreation departments that manage active recreation programs like the kind that you're talking about. For us, it would actually be having staff manage 10, 15 different contracts for 15 different people
Yeah,
and manage the active use of the park. That could be a little
It's a
challenging.
policy question, because we don't have things like Redwood City Menlo Park have like a quarterly booklet with
right,
all the classes, because we have a lot of
Yeah.
classes. We have art classes, we have the tennis, we have the play school, we have the Little League, but it's not in one book like in other communities. But we probably would need staff to do that. for us.
Yeah, Menlo
Not
Park
an
has got
Atherton
people in
run
the
event,
parks
I'm
all the
saying.
time, watching the park and seeing who's using it. If you go in there and you start having a class, you know,
They'll shut you down.
and they'll come out and tell you to get off if you're not registered with them.
Yeah.
So that means you have to have a staff member there, you know, going out and doing that, and we really don't have.
Are there any other policy questions that anyone on the committee has for the council?
Yeah, this area here, the town center, whether you want the Park and Rec to bring that into our portfolio of consideration of things that are active or passive spaces to use, to enhance, something that in the past we have not, but if it's something you've changed your mind on, we can.
Originally, our purview included the town center. This is before the new town center.
Because it was reading Park.
And the town center then got built, and obviously it's a very different animal. And the question I would have too is, well, if that's true, would we have had purview over the new little playground? Or is that a library issue? And how does that all work? I think we just need to know the scope of our responsibilities.
Well, I think, you know, the library paid for the library thing, you know. I really don't see this as a recreation area. You know, there used to be the reading park, so to speak, but that's now a retention pond. So no one's playing in it.
That's
It
what you
shouldn't
think.
be anyway.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say.
The kids have other ideas.
I see snorkels out there.
You know, and I see kids playing in the gardens here too, but I don't see that this is, you know, part of the park per se. That's my 2 cents.
what would it look like, what are you, can you give any examples of use cases of what you guys could do here? Cause I
Um,
have drawn a blank on what you guys would.
well, we might think about, I don't know, seeing what recreation, well, there's gonna be a recreation area behind the library,
Mhm.
but we could think of other ways to provide recreation or maybe have classes in this room or something like that, but we haven't really talked about it as a committee.
Yeah,
I do see people kind of walking around and it's become a recreation point when we have events, because we have the Halloween event here, we have other events here, so.
We have Christmas. Why don't you do this, Alex?
Yeah.
When you guys do your park walk around and come up with your ideas, why don't you walk around over here before you come in here to meet?
Okay.
And you come up with whatever what ideas you may have.
Okay.
Lumber Castle.
Well, I'd say before they do that, the council ought to decide if we want their input on the town center. I mean, Park and Rec uses our walk around fully in the park. So to include this would add whatever, 20 minutes to our walk around, which is not that big a thing. I think the council has to decide if we want their input on the town center. There are quite a number of activities that go on here, most of which are organized by the library. And if you walk around, you see people doing exercise classes or Tai Chi classes or different things happen in this area that are principally organized by the library, but probably some are completely independent that we don't have any control over. I mean, we could if we wanted to. So I think members of the council should opine as to whether we want input on this. In my opinion, town staff is all over this facility, unlike the park. I mean, certain members of the town staff are in the park often and are very aware of everything that's going on, but it's a much bigger and more recreational facility than this unit. And people are pretty on top of what's going on here, so I'm not sure how important it is.
And just a couple other caveats. We have a huge parking issue here
Yeah.
that we're trying to address. This room is programmed by the town. We use it for police department meetings regularly, staff meetings regularly, other gatherings, council meetings, committee meetings. The community room in the library is programmed by the library. So you're really talking about the outdoor gathering spaces, the cafe, the deck, and
Well,
the space
There will be
here.
a museum out here and then the heritage room.
In the train museum, and the heritage room is the community room, and it's programmed by the library itself. So there's kind of limited
Sorry, the
stuff.
Heritage Center that Patty and,
They have
History.
their office hours.
okay.
And so you gotta think about all those things as you're thinking.
Maybe it's not appropriate.
Yeah, so the only crossover that I would see, that primarily would be the effect it has on parking in the park when we have an event here. So that's a crossover right away that you could conflict with things you've already got scheduled in the park. So at some point, you know, the consideration about that would be the tie-in more than anything external here. But my own personal feeling would be, if you thought of something for over here, let us know. You know, and that would be my own personal thought, because you know what's going on more than I do. So I'd be comfortable with that from the standpoint of that, but nothing that like this year, make sure you have 5 events over here or anything like that.
George is responsible for, you know, if we're gonna have a big event here, he knows about what we're gonna get, and he knows what's going on in the park, because anything that's large is gonna be, you know, under his purview and has to have his permission, so I don't think that.
Well, you know, Rick is liaison, so if there's anything, I mean, you'll tie him into whatever we happen over here. I just know that we're
True, but they want some policy guidance as to whether we want them to include this within their purview.
Yeah,
We can always keep the primary look at Hope Plummer, but then if something comes up where a committee member has an idea, we can bring it up. And
yeah, that's the way I would do it.
Yeah.
I would say not in purview, but in concept of
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
And Alex, did you say there's a recreation area being developed behind the library? Did I misunderstand?
There is for children, it's a children's park.
that's in the works?
Yes.
Oh,
it's-
Constructing it now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you
got
can
some
take a look,
construction going
it's,
on.
well, maybe during the day, it's not so good.
It's a very small area, but it's going to be a substantial, totally different play area than the playground in the park.
Sure,
It's not a
sure.
playground.
Right.
It's just a,
It's like a.
It's an active walk area.
it's quite
Yeah,
small.
just-
Okay. Thank you.
It's under construction right
And
now.
the maintenance of that is the library or?
100% the library.
Library. Is there a-
But it's the town, but it's paid by the library.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would make sense that if this year we open that new play space and we have the museum, that I think we should have that conversation once those two things are open, if those are
Okay.
changing the use of this space to become more of a recreational space than it is currently.
We'll have a little more parking.
That train museum is gonna be like, just full of people, it's gonna be crazy, so
There's no
then.
recreation related to the train, zero. But there is some recreation related.
Right,
I saw like
Like-
30 people walked in
It's
line
gonna be
over there
like
trying
a-
to get into it.
So I think we should see, once it's open, that's kind of my view.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait a minute. He was right, he was